In the thunderous silence of an off-season spiraling into chaos, the Golden State Warriors find themselves trapped in a maddening standoff with one of their brightest young talents. And it might just unravel everything we thought we knew about this team's future. Welcome back to Warriors News Fan Report, where raw truths collide with splash-era passion. Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so your heart never misses a beat. Now, let's peel back the layers on what has evolved into the most perplexing, tension-filled saga rocking Dub Nation since the height of the dynasty, Jonathan Kuminga's free agency. What started as a flicker of promise has erupted into a full-blown debacle, a perfect storm of unmet expectations, stubborn front office maneuvers, and a player publicly betting on himself in ways that scream both defiance and desperation. Warriors' 2-year, $45 million offer, seemingly generous on paper, is now hanging in limbo. Derailed not by the amount, but by a clawing clause buried deep in the collective bargaining agreement, the no-trade clause. This seemingly technical word has become the iron chain binding Kuminga and the Warriors to a stale negotiation. Golden State's unyielding stance demands Kuminga waive this clause if he wants the deal, while his camp, led by agent Aaron Turner, refuses to cede that control, making it crystal clear Kuminga is eyeing an exit, convinced that the Warriors have held him back, stunted his development, and strung him along like a prop in a handcuffed chess match. Since Shams Charania's bombshell reporting exposed Kuminga's rebuff of the deal, the drama spilled onto social media, where a subliminal Instagram story from Kuminga, "I'm gonna bet on myself," all day, felt like a wiretap into the mind of a player ready to gamble everything on a gamble that the Warriors will fold. The stakes? If Kuminga doesn't sign the 2-year deal by the August 12th deadline, he will resort to the team's qualifying offer, a $7.9 million 1-year contract loaded with a no-trade clause, paving his path into unrestricted free agency. Next summer, with zero compensation, heading back to Golden State. This isn't just a footnote. It's a seismic threat to the Warriors' off-season blueprint, a scenario that transforms Kuminga from a tradable asset into an unmovable stone, shackled to a contract no one wanted but no one can adjust until his tenure ends. Meanwhile, whispers of trade conversations with interested teams, the Suns, Kings, Bulls, have all but evaporated under the weight of Golden State's sky-high price tag. Offers like Phoenix's deal tossing in Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards, and a flurry of second-round picks are being coldly dismissed because the Warriors insist on a package featuring first-round picks and young talent, a pipe dream in the words of many insiders. It's a frustrating puzzle. On one side, a team craving assets and clarity, and on the other, a player unwilling to commit to a long-term role that he clearly finds limiting in Steve Kerr's rotation where minutes and touches are precious battlegrounds fiercely contested by Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. The players' own words on Tim Kawakami's podcast echoed the tension. The Warriors can't afford to give Kuminga 38 minutes a night if they want to win, because he wants to go into business for himself, craving the spotlight role the Warriors weren't built to offer with their established stars in place. This offseason turmoil isn't isolated to Kuminga alone. Restricted free agency is a quagmire of undervalued talents starved for financial recognition in a league strangled by cap conditions, with all 4 of Golden State's restricted free agents angling for deals north of $25 million annually. Yet Kuminga remains the lone leaks and noise generative player in this landscape, overshadowing quieter names like Cam Thomas or Josh Giddey. The fan reaction on social, often fiery, sometimes enraged, stands in stark contrast to the more measured or despairing voices here in the comment sections, where the bitter truth is acknowledged. This standoff could sabotage the Warriors' title hopes. We've seen hot takes belittling the teams interested in Kuminga, the Suns, Bulls, Kings calling them losers, implying a parallel in the player's perceived limitations, while analysts like Kendrick Perkins have surprisingly thrown insistent support behind Kuminga's ceiling, branding him elite. But that praise rings hollow against the backdrop of Golden State's off-court gridlock, and on-court realities where Kuminga has yet to coalesce into the impact player the Warriors envisioned when he was the 7th overall pick. If Golden State cannot swallow their pride and break this impasse, they risk entering the season tangled in uncertainty, an awkward locker room chemistry at best, a fractured roster at worst. And speaking of locker room dynamics, let's shift to Gary Payton II, the gritty warrior whose presence has been a steadying force when on the floor yet, whose return is now mired in the fallout from the Kuminga saga. Rumors have swirled all offseason about GP2 possibly rolling back to the Bay on a minimum deal, a story tethered tightly to how the Kuminga chapter closes. It's no secret Payton has shown his rust, faded statistical peaks and diminishing returns from his prime seasons have sparked skepticism about even his value as a rotation piece. Yet insiders suggest GP2's own summer shuffle mirrors the hesitancy gripping Kuminga's camp, as Payton, along with Al Horford and Anthony Melton, wait on Golden State's moves before committing elsewhere. This bottleneck of free agency dominoes frozen by Kuminga's unresolved status holds back key veterans who could fill vital roles and stabilize a roster bracing for an uncertain fall. Here's the irony that fans might find maddening. The Warriors, by refusing to budge on Kuminga's contract terms, are inadvertently choking their own flexibility, limiting the possible reconnection with veteran staples like GP2 and Seth Curry, both eyed as essential pieces in the championship puzzle, yet capped out by the salary cap's cruel arithmetic. The delicate dance between luxury tax thresholds, second aprons, and available cap space means Golden State might only land one of these veterans, forcing painful decisions that ripple through chemistry, play style, and locker room vision. And so, a new question churns in the vapor of speculation. If you had to bet on the Warriors' next off-season splurge, do you side with the tenacity and defense of Gary Payton II, or the sharpshooting and playoff pedigree of Seth Curry? Your voice matters here. Drop your pick, because this saga isn't merely about dollars and cents. It's about the soul of this team. All this turmoil, Kuminga's rebellion, Payton's limbo, the front office's stubbornness paints a stark picture of a Warriors franchise at a crossroads, yearning for that familiar rhythm of we believe, but snarled in the very uncertainties that threaten to fracture their identity. Against this backdrop, I can't help but flash back to that incandescent moment, the game that forever transformed the Warriors' narrative, and my own fandom the night Steph Curry unleashed a 54-point symphony at Madison Square Garden in 2013. It was when the dynasty's engine caught fire, an electrifying moment that promised greatness. Now, nearly a decade later, we stand mid-season in a vastly different battle, not only for championships, but for clarity, direction, and trust, in a team teetering on the edge of a make-or-break chapter. As a lifelong Dub Nation believer, my pulse races just writing this. The question echoes louder than ever. Is this the ignition point for an improbable title run, fueled by the grit and splash spirit that built this franchise, or the crack-in, our foundation that splits the legacy forever? The answers are blurry, but your unfiltered takes could light the path forward. Drop your thoughts below. I'll be right there, heart in hand, ready to wrestle through this storm with you. Let's go Dubs! If your blood just turned ice cold thinking about what this Kuminga standoff could mean for the entire Warriors blueprint, scream it into the comments right now, cause this is the kind of off-season nightmare that doesn't just drift away. By training camp, it festers, it divides, and it threatens everything we built from scratch. We're staring down a future where the delicate architecture of this team once a finely tuned symphony of shooters, defenders, and hustlers now, dangerously creaking under the weight of fractured trust and gridlocked front office chess. Imagine, just for a second, the absolute raw chaos in the locker room when Warrior vets like Draymond Green, the emotional and cerebral captain, have to wrestle with a frustrated Kuminga who feels boxed in and undervalued, watching his minutes, bled by Curry's immortal glow and Clay's quietly lethal execution. This isn't just mismatched minutes. It's a slow-burning resentment that could poison the camaraderie that cultivated those 3 titles. And I'm staring at Steve Kerr, the mastermind, caught in the eye of this storm where every decision feels like walking a razor's edge. Between nurturing young talent and preserving the dynasty's winning DNA. Because let's be honest, Kerr knows if this impasse drags on past August 12th, we might be stuck with this awkward $7.9 million contract no-trade shard, a noose for the off-season moves we desperately need to unfreeze. And remember, when this kid tosses his Instagram bait about betting on himself all day, that's not just bravado. That's a signal flare for anyone with ears to hear that. Kuminga doesn't see Golden State as the golden ticket anymore. He's ready to jump ship, to find a stage that respects his explosive upside. And make no mistake, one more summer of this standoff could mean the Warriors lose a key piece for nothing. Now, while we're locked in on Kuminga's gridlock, let's zoom out and breathe in the wider wildfire this drama ignites. Gary Payton, too, one of the most electric defenders this franchise has leaned on like a lifeline, is holding his breath. On a return, trapped in the same waiting room as Seth Curry, a knife fight for cap space that the Warriors front office has already painted themselves into. That vicious luxury tax labyrinth means we might have to choose between hustle and sharp shooting, grit and playoff cold-bloodedness. An agonizing pick where whoever misses out becomes not just a roster casualty, but a moral blow to the squad's soul. And think about how deeply this mess flares around Steph Curry's legacy, not just as the greatest shooter we've ever seen, but as a generational leader challenged by the evolving dynamics of a youth-driven league that demands roster innovation. Steph's not just carrying the torch for 50 points or clutch threes. He's now bearing the emotional weight of a fractured locker room, a front office stuck in negotiation quicksand, and a fan base that's both electrified by his gratitude and haunted by the long shadows of decline. The spotlight on Curry has never been this brutal and this vulnerable at once. Draymond, meanwhile, still the fiery heart and lungs of every Warrior's heartbeat, is caught in this bristling mess too, trying to be the glue, the chief troublemaker, the mentor, and the enforcer, while knowing that the butterfly effect of one botched negotiation with Kuminga might cascade through the locker room with far-reaching consequences. Fractures that won't show up in highlight reels but tear at the fabric of trust and loyalty. I'm watching Jordan Poole with eagle eyes, to his untamed burst of playoff potential ironically thrown into sharper focus by Kuminga's growing shadow. Poole's emergence is this team's wild card, but can he truly thrive if this roster remains in limbo, a house divided on minutes and identity? And let's not forget Jonathan Moody, the baby-faced sharpshooter, caught on the periphery of a swirling veteran youth tug-of-war, whose development feels tethered to this off-season's outcome almost as much as Kuminga's future. What if the Warriors, paradoxically, are on the edge of losing the very culture that turned self-doubt into a championship engine? This isn't just a salary cap kerfuffle. This is a battle for the team's philosophical soul between what Kerr's rotating cast has been and what the Warriors must become to sustain this dynasty beyond just Steph's heroics. Now, in this hot pressure cooker moment, imagine the front office meetings behind closed doors, Bob Myers and his lieutenants mapping out contingencies while the clock ticks down, wondering if folding on the no-trade clause is the pragmatic move or the death of their bargaining power. Could conceding to Kuminga's camp invite a precedent shift that shackles Golden State with future no-trade clauses and stall flexibility for years? Or is it better to risk alienating a rising star who already doubts his place alongside Curry's shadow? This tightrope walk defines everything about the Warriors' DNA since their we believe underdog roots, a relentless pursuit of balance between loyalty and evolution, star power versus team chemistry, and above all, trust over ego. And the rumors swirling about trade talks, nothing cooling, only simmering beneath the surface like a powder keg. Those rejected offers that the Warriors labeled pipe dreams could be the thin ice under our championship ship. The Suns, Kings, Bulls, all staring from the outside, waiting for cracks to widen ready to pounce if Golden State shows any sign of fracture. Here's the gut punch. If Kuminga walks away and refuses the deal, that 1 year $7.9 million qualifying offer leaves us with an asset stranded in no man's land, untouchable and exasperating to the max of dramatic noose around the Warriors. Next season plans. So what damage does this inflict? Less depth, more tension, fewer trade chips, and a grinding salary cap nightmare that means fewer veterans like Payton or Seth returning players who might have brought that late-game dog. Grit or cold shot precision desperately missing from the equation. And when you place this turmoil alongside Steph's relentless march to etch his legacy deeper into the NBA pantheon, man balancing the eternal weight of arena expectation with the fragility of a team holding together by threads, it's almost cinematic in its tragedy and tension. Will the team's heartbeat hold? Or are we witnessing the slow unraveling of a dynasty gilded in brilliance, but shackled by convoluted contract limbos and fractured ambition? I see a thin line separating. Resilience from dissolution, legacy from limbo. For those of us who have bled blue and gold through every cascade of heartbreak and parade, the sting of this offseason feels like a betrayal, but also like a call to arms. This is the kind of pressure cooker moment that forges legends or fuels fractures. So where do you stand? Which side of this crossroads do you pledge your faith? Do you bet on facility and firepower returning with veterans like GP2 or Seth Curry? Or dive into the unknown, holding on to a restless Kuminga who might never fully blossom here? Does Steve Kerr risk reigniting the splash magic through graph and patience? Or does this drag us into a middling purgatory where the dynasty's glow slowly dims under the weight of what-ifs? This moment demands truth and passion, no sugarcoating, because this isn't just basketball. This is our story. And I promise you, whatever happens, I'll be here, arguing with every ounce of rage and hope I can muster. Now, drop your hottest, rawest take below. Tell me what you really think without holding back. Because in this fight for the Warriors' future, every voice counts, every spark matters, and this community is where the real power lies. Let's throw down in the comments is we're not just fans. We're the pulse that could keep this dynasty breathing or watch it fade into legend. Warriors forever, no matter the chaos.